Hi, I'm Mrs. Monson, and today we're going to talk about our Walk the Graph activity so we can figure out what it feels like to create the motion graphs that we've been studying. A couple of things you're going to need for this lab. You'll be given a Bluetooth sensor, and then you're going to get a motion sensor out of the second drawer in your lab station. When you're finished, you will put the motion sensor neatly back in that drawer. First thing you need to do is in your settings setup of your iPad, you need to find the number of your Bluetooth sensor. Turn on your Bluetooth sensor on the side, go to your settings menu, and find the Bluetooth. You'll see the number pop up if this is turned on. So under Bluetooth, you can see Airlink 2 19098. That's the same number as I have. That's the one I want to connect to. So I'm going to connect to that one. Obviously, there will be other ones in the classroom, so make sure you're connecting to the one that you need. Once you've connected on your iPad, you're going to very carefully connect the motion sensor to your Bluetooth. It only goes one direction. One side is longer than the other. Please be very careful when you connect these. These are very expensive equipment. So you're very carefully going, they take a little bit of pushing, but gently. Right? Once they're connected, you will see, you'll eventually see a little green dot on your motion sensor, so you'll know that it's working and connected. Next, make sure that the switch on the very top of your motion sensor is turned to the little stick person instead of the little car. Definitely want, because we're not moving in cars today, we're walking ourselves, so we want it to be on the stick person. And set that up so that you've got enough space to move back and forth a couple of meters away from the motion sensor. All right, setup is complete. Now we're ready to get moving. So we're going to go into our MatchGraph app. Here's our my MatchGraph app. All right. First thing you're going to want to do is add people. Add all of your partners by last names, by the person with a plus. You can add last names, as many as you have in your group. Okay. You're going to make sure that for the starting situation, you have this box says position. So I've just switched it to velocity, but we want it to say position to start. Make sure the correct person, whoever's going to do the graph first, is chosen. So Mrs. Monson's going to do that first. And you'll notice, you'll know you've got the motion sensor connected if you've got a red dot up here. If that dot is black, then your motion sensor is not connected to your iPad. So that's how you know you've got what you need. You need a red dot to record. Then the idea is, I've got a graph here. You can choose your graph. There's little graphs right here next to position. And it gives you lots of options of graphs to do. So we're going to start with graph number 1. You can see that I've already done a trial here. Actually, this is Mr. Nagus' trial. He did a great job. Then you're going to take a whiteboard. It's easiest to work with a whiteboard, or you can use a folder that you have. That's fine. And we're going to move, and we're going to move back and forth in front of this motion sensor and try to make the exact same graph as you see here. So I'm going to try to make this graph. I'm going to use this whiteboard. But first, notice, moving away from this motion sensor is considered going in the positive direction. The motion sensor is at 0, so this is a positive direction away from the motion sensor. If you then come towards the motion sensor, you're moving in the negative direction. So away is positive, towards is negative. Right? So you can see that I'm supposed to start my graph at a position of 0.4 meters away from my motion sensor. So I'm not going to start right up here next to it. I'm not going to start way back here. I'm going to try and find approximately where 0.4 meters is away from my motion sensor. When you're ready, you're going to hit the red button. It's going to give you a couple seconds to get in the right position, and then you're going to move away from the motion sensor and try to match that graph. You can see I got a score of 93.99, so that's pretty good. You want to keep doing this until you get a score of 90 or above. How do you know what your list of scores are? Here you can see a star with numbers. That's got all the lists of all the scores of somebody who has done this graph. Once you've got a 90, you're going to switch. Your partner's going to try that graph. Once they've gotten a 90 or higher, you can move on to the next graph. Once you have finished with all 6 of the position graphs that are listed in your activity, you're going to go back to your screen and change from position to velocity and choose the velocity graphs shown in the activity. Once you and your partner have completed all 6 position graphs and all 6 velocity graphs and scored 90 or above on all of them, then you're finished with the activity for the day. You should disconnect all of your equipment, turn off your Bluetooth sensor, and plug it in at the charging station. Your motion detector will be nicely wound up, wind the cord up neatly, and put it back in the drawer where you found it. So, again, walk the graph activity. We're going to do this in one class period. We're working in groups. Please be careful with the equipment. It's expensive stuff. So remember, physics is fun.